Hi, everybody. It's Jim Ostrowski back with the Liberty Moving podcast. Please subscribe. Please put me on alerts. Buy my books at Amazon if you like my work. I don't raise money. I don't ask for donations. I want to remain independent. I'm not going to be like some think tank that's the tool of, millionaires or centimillionaire or billionaires behind the scenes. Um, So I'm just wrapping up. We're in the middle of a project called Dr. Ostrowski's Political Class, where you're going to learn more about politics than you ever did in college, certainly more than you ever did in high school. Um, I'm going through all my books chapter by chapter, sort of distilling out the insights that I've learned over 50 years in politics, really anti-politics, but you know what I mean. So I'm almost done. I wrote a massive paper for the Mises Institute that turned into the book behind me. The lead essay is 25,000 words, which is about half the size of a book. So I'm wrapping up that chapter that's called What's Wrong with Buffalo, a Rothbardian Analysis. And it has applicability far beyond Buffalo, as you've already learned by watching the podcast. So, and then after that, we'll get into the rest of the chapters. There's 47 more chapters. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to take the ones that have some sort of a lesson beyond the controversy of the moment. Lots of different topics there. Unbelievable. I have a whole section on foreign policy. It's like 12 different articles, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So to finish off the chapter, normally I'm summarizing things, but sometimes it's going to read an excerpt because I can't summarize it any better than I already wrote it initially. So this is sort of the wrap up of, a gigantic essay that has to do with why Buffalo declined, how I got interested in politics, how I got interested in libertarianism. It's all sort of the same subject. The reason why I'm a libertarian is because I was trying to figure out why Buffalo declined. It's inseparable in my mind. And it took me to libertarianism to provide those answers, because my naive notion that, we could sort of reform our way out of this thing. And, if we just get rid of the political machine, we'd be fine. No, none of that was true, but it took me several years to figure that out. So this is kind of and again, none of these podcasts should be taken as a substitute for reading the books. I'm just hinting at what's in there. All the detail, all the anecdotes, all the war stories are pretty much in the book, but not in the podcast. So I'm just going to sort of read the summary, which is self-explanatory. In my youth, I was given a rare opportunity to observe Buffalo politics at close range. I didn't like what I saw. A small group of people, tightly organized, that seized the reins of political power and used that power to enrich themselves and their allies. They treated all agencies of government, even the most hallowed, the judiciary, as mere political patronage to be exploited to maintain and expand the machine's power. Since the goodies handed out by the machine come directly or indirectly from the private economy, the amount of wealth extracted from the economy increased year after year. This gradually drove or shut out industry and business. The machine's powers never waned, though, as they drew new strength from outside subsidies and faced an ever-shrinking number of persons of independent means and minds who could oppose them. Looking back on it all, I now see I've been battling the machine in one form or another, in one manner or another, for 28 years. So far, while I won a few skirmishes, the machine has won the big battles. At the same time, the machine has been at war with the people of Buffalo. The machine has won all of those battles. They have done quite well for themselves, but left the usual costs of war: broken lives, shattered dreams, thousands of exiles. The machine has destroyed Buffalo with the efficiency of a modern air force. The machine's policies and programs have left the inner city and industrial areas looking like a war zone with abandoned and decaying housing and factories. At night, some neighborhoods become war zones, thanks to young men who in earlier years would have found work in the factories. They ply different trades now. In a war, however, the only thing that matters is who wins the last battle. In recent months, I've detected the beginnings of a major change in Buffalo. I'm beginning to hear people say things about Buffalo politics that I've been saying for decades. Is the last battle imminent? My exposure to libertarian ideas, particularly those of Murray Rothbard, finally gave me the analytical tools I needed to understand what went wrong in Buffalo and why. As predicted in the Austrian theory of economics perfected by Rothbard, Buffalo became an economic powerhouse around the year 1900 in an era of relative laissez-faire. With no federal income tax and government share of the economy at less than 10%, there was an enormous amount of capital available for investment in Buffalo's burgeoning heavy industry. What the uninformed all along the political spectrum do not grasp is that wealth can be increased only by the investment of financial, physical or human capital. All government action above and beyond mere peacekeeping and dispute resolution destroys or reduces economic and human capital and reduces the incentive to create such capital. Big government makes us poorer. Exhibit A for that proposition is Buffalo, New York, which in the last 100 years went from laissez-faire capitalism to Rust Belt welfare state, from economic dynamo to basket case and laughing stock on late-night talk shows. As noted earlier, while the growth of government gradually damages the economy, the remaining market element continues to produce enough wealth to avert that level of desperation needed to drive radical change. Is there any escape from this treadmill? Is Buffalo's only hope for change that we first endure a great leap forward into full socialism and its resulting poverty, starvation, and despair? Wouldn't it be easier to read about Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot than to live under them? Talk about political bosses. Leaving aside that unlikely and unpleasant scenario, unless the people of Buffalo and Erie County wake up, they and their children and their grandchildren will face death by 1,000 cuts, economic torture at the hands of the ruthless local political machine for decades to come. Let me close on a positive note. Though Buffalo, once a world-class economy, has fallen behind, the world has been slow to grasp the true cause of prosperity, individual liberty. Other cities, regions, and countries have moved ahead of Buffalo merely because they are slightly less unfree than we are. Neither history nor geography nor present economic conditions place a limit on our future. If we can stop the political class from siphoning off our wealth, economic and human capital will flow in so fast that the only problem will be what to do with all that wealth and all those talented people. Ironically, it is the radical nature of my vision that gives Buffalo a chance to leap ahead of the competition. Sloughing off the failed but comfortable status quo will take courage and daring, rare commodities in human affairs. That is why philosopher Blanchard called courage the best loved virtue. We admire courage, Blanchard wrote, because it is the antidote to the emotion that is at once the deepest, the most universal, and the most disagreeable known to man, the emotion of fear. Presently, Buffalo is mired in mediocrity, stagnation, and fear. There is fear of change, fear of new ideas, fear of freedom, which in the end is fear of life itself. This fear is continually exploited by the ruling elite, which tells us everything's fine, everything is under our control. Sell us your political souls and we'll take care of you. But the last 40 years say otherwise. The political elite take care of themselves, to hell with everyone else. The power elite controls the present. They have built a seemingly invincible Berlin Wall around our freedom. The future, however, will belong to those who have the courage and daring to choose individual freedom in the free market. The future will belong to those who have the insight, the foresight, and the courage to say, political class dismissed. It's somewhat sad to read those lines, those hopeful lines, and to see that some of those predictions in the negative sense kind of came true. We're still in a downward spiral. That book had really no solutions, and people came up to me and said, "Hey, what are we going to do about it now?" And I came up. I'm not going to go through the whole story, which will be scattered throughout the podcast, but I came up with an idea of let's start a think tank, because we need to produce some basic public policy ideas and change the mindset around here. And I did, called Free Buffalo. And for several years, really from about 2005 to 2011, as it says in the cover, it's more than a book, it's an event. It was an event. It really led to 6-7 years of intense activism, basically ending in 2011 when I put a congressional candidate on the ballot, shocking everybody and creating a national ruckus. Karl Rove even got involved, and the candidate was not successful, but did very well and ultimately cost the Republicans a seat. And then after that, I brought Ron Paul into Buffalo on 2 days' notice, and we had a huge rally. I think we had like 700 people there, caused a traffic jam in East Aurora. So this did lead to a huge effort, which ultimately was not successful. But I learned so many lessons that are then applied in the books that followed Political Class Dismissed. And everything I'm doing now is kind of a result of what I learned during those 6 years. So that'll do it. Being pretty short today, I see about 12 minutes. I'm going to go through, there's 47 other articles in the book. I'm going to go through those articles. I mean, there's some good articles there, but maybe not going to make the final cut. Like there's an article about Andrew Cuomo, of all things, which really perfectly explains his persona, but I don't know how important it is really in the scheme of things. I really want to go through and teach political class here and distill all the lessons that are in there, of which there are plenty. One of the things that people don't understand from the title of this book is there's massive number of foreign policy articles about 9/11 and about the Iraq War. I mean, I predicted the civil war in Iraq. I'm one of the first people who did, and I think Alana Mercer pointed that out. I appreciate her giving me that credit, because I generally speaking don't get a lot of credit for what I do. I think you're sort of gathering that already, because I'm not an ass kisser. I'm up here in Buffalo. I kind of everything is there's nothing easy. There's no long bomb pass for the touchdown. It's all 3 yards in a cloud of dust, as Woody Hayes used to say. I have to work and scratch and claw for everything I get. But I guess the plus side is I've been out here in the real world. Some libertarians, I think, it's great to be a professor, but they're not out. I have the theory and the practice. I got the theory, in my school days and my reading and studying under Rothbard, but I've been out in the field. And really what you see in my work is a sort of a marriage between theory and practice, which ultimately advances the theory of liberty. And so, life's what happens when you're making other plans, but you just have to sort of go with it. And eventually, if you have an attitude of refusing to fail, you will prevail. So over and out. We'll see you the next time at the Liberty Moving podcast.